Well, if you are a subscriber to the Hot Tub Curmudgeon, you're probably aware that I haven't had any curmudging lately. And maybe that's a blessing that I'm not like a blogger or a journalist where I've got to come up with something every day or every week. No, I only have something to say when I have something to say. And so tonight I do. I do. And that is that I've realized that my heroes are liars. My heroes are Oskar Schindler and Raoul Wallenberg. These guys were responsible for saving upwards of 2,000, probably more, upwards of 2,000 Jews from the Nazis. And whenever, I'm asked to buy a brick in some memorial or, do something to commemorate, and, what's the name you want to put on the brick, I always put Raoul Wallenberg. My Wi-Fi network name is Wallenberg, and I told the Comcast guy that I'm trying to keep alive the name of Wallenberg. I urge you to study his history, but it was a little disturbing when I realized that these men who are my primary heroes in life, that's how I would want to live, were liars. They had to lie to save all those people. Can you see the roadies? The roadies have been blooming. Anyway, so then it occurs to me that I think everybody agrees that they were heroes, and they agree that it was good that they lied to save all those people. And we celebrate the canniness, the cunning of their lies. Wallenberg would go up to the train station. This would have been in Hungary. And Hungary, I think, was about the last place that the Nazis and Adolf Eichmann, in fact, were very active in rounding up the last of the Jews. And so Wallenberg would walk onto the train platform and say, hey, wait a minute, I need a work crew, and I've got papers here. And I think they were bogus papers. But I've got papers that say that I need 200 people for my work crew. And then he would walk through the train and just like randomly pick people, say, come on, get off the train. And he'd get them off the train because everybody else was on their way to the death camps. And then he would put them on a truck like they were going to do some work. And he would drive them out in the woods. And then he would say, now, run that direction for about a mile, and you will cross the frontier. I don't know, what would it have been, Macedonia or Greece or so. Anyway, some non-German country where they would be safe. Okay, so we celebrate their cunning, their canniness in their lies, and we like their lies, and we laugh at their lies, or we like, whoa, that was really good. So now let's contrast that with that if it's an individual's life that's at stake and he lies or he betrays his virtue, his commitments, his faith, well, then no. So, for example, John McCain, while a POW, they figured out, hey, this guy's father is an admiral, his grandfather was an admiral, let's let this guy go. And McCain said, no, I ain't leaving unless you let all these other guys go with me. Oh, man, does that make him a hero? You betcha, to everybody except Trump. Trump's just, a lion sack of crap in every direction. But so, of course, he doesn't celebrate telling the truth. But the Mormons, they have a story about, I think it's Joseph F. Smith. as a 15-year-old boy is confronted by some anti-Mormon haters, and one of them grabs a kid, puts a gun to his head, and says something about, so are you a Mormon? And so, young Mormon kids can quote what Joseph S. Smith said, which is something like, "You betcha, sir, dyed-in-the-wool, true blue Latter-day Saint." And he didn't get shot. But he's a hero, see, because it was only his life at stake. So telling the truth was what was required. And, okay. So, so now there's a third category. So one category is if you tell lies to save a bunch of other people, that's good. We celebrate it. If you tell a lie to save your own snaky skin, we don't like that. But there's a third category. And apparently, I think it's an Arabic expression, idiom or something, and it's along the line of that a person you should only tell the truth to someone who deserves the truth. Now, I think there's a lot of, I can buy that. I think I can buy that. So, if some dirtbag, skinhead, white supremacist has a gun to my head and he doesn't deserve the truth from me, I guess I'd lie to keep him from shooting my brains out. I don't see any reason to stand up for my principles for the skinhead dirtbag. Do you? Would you? I mean, if he said, "I want you to deny Christ," well, I don't know, if you saw that there was some possibility that you could redeem this poor guy, save his soul, then yeah, I guess you ought to say, "No, I believe he's my savior." But I don't think this guy deserves the truth. So there's this saying that tell a lie to someone who does not deserve the truth. Now, the downside of that approach is that nobody, from that perspective, nobody deserves the truth except fellow believers. Infidels and evil women, they don't deserve the truth. Lie. Okay. Now, I'm going to kind of change the subject here. In the book, Schindler's List, a couple of the Jews that were working in his Czechoslovakia factory, it was a very hot day, so they climbed way up into the rafters of the factory where there was a water tank. And so they were going to take a little dip in the water tank. But when they lifted the lid off the water tank, there was Oskar Schindler with 2 female SS guards frolicking. Now, Oskar was married. And what I want to propose is that Oskar Schindler is a hero of the whole existentialist, absurdist philosophy and literature. Now, actually, there couldn't possibly be a hero, I don't think, anyway. So, now, who I'm thinking of when I talk about existentialist, absurdist theater is Jean-Paul Sartre and Camus, but especially Samuel Beckett and Edward Albee and Harold Pinter. Most famous play by Beckett was Waiting for Godot, and the most famous play by any of these guys, I think that most people know something about, is a play called Huis Clos. I think it's Huisclos. And it's a man, I think, and 2 women that are in a room for eternity, and this room has no windows and no doors. And there's just the 3 of them having to spend eternity together. And that is Sartre's definition of hell, other people. hard to argue with it, especially after you see the play. But now, I'm going to propose that Oskar Schindler was a hero of this whole absurdist philosophy in theater. Now, my own definition of absurdism is that you want to take a look at that, as Barbara Ehrenreich says, you are this brief interruption in an eternity of non-personhood. A brief interruption in an eternity of non-personhood. So here you are, this skin bag, evolved killer ape, walking on a whirling dirt ball in an absolutely empty void. And there you go, trying to find some meaning in your life. The purpose-filled life. Everything is empty and meaningless, and that doesn't mean anything. So make up some meaning. That's absurdism. Okay, so here you got Oskar Schindler. He's married. And here are these crazy Nazis running around doing the most absurd things, carrying on a war, and in the middle of trying to carry on a war and carry logistics to the front, they're hauling Jews around to death camps and rounding up Jews. And so he looks at all this and he just says, why not? So he starts a factory to prepare enameled cookware for the troops. And he gets paid money to make cookware for the army. Why not? He doesn't believe in the war. He is a Nazi, but he doesn't believe in it. But hell's bells, here's a chance to make some money. Why not? So then when this is in Poland, when the Russians get close to his factory there, he needs to move and go over to Czechoslovakia. So he starts making ammunition, artillery shells. Well, why not? And so here's these cute SS gals. Why not? And you got these Jews that will work for free if you feed them a little bit of bread. And, he shows compassion for them, and he saves them when they're being rounded up to sent to concentration camps, not quite death camps, or in one occasion they're on their way to Auschwitz, and he goes down and says, hey, wait a minute, these are my factory workers. I paid for them fair and square, they're mine. And he pulls them off the train. And then the females in his group, the wives of these men, the train of the females actually got sent to Auschwitz, was inside the gates. And Oskar hustles over there in his expensive German automobile and goes in and says, hey, wait a minute now, these are my workers in my ammunition factory. I gotta have them. He didn't have to have them. There were Jews everywhere. He could have used anybody. But no, he went, well, why not? The man probably had good parents. He was somehow raised in a way that compassion moved him, as opposed to all the psychopaths around him. And so, why not? Why not show a little compassion in this crazy world? And so here's a man in the midst of the most hellacious insanity and meaninglessness, just empty craziness everywhere that he looks, and he thinks, I could make some money, and I could make friends with these people, and they'll work really hard for me, and then they like me and they feel good about me, and if I needed them, who knows in the future who you're going to need as a friend. Why not? So I'm thinking, maybe why not becomes the motto of your existentialist, absurdist hero. Just get out there, try to help people. What do you think? So get back to me on this. I want to know what you think. And if I don't hear from some people out here, I want to just give up this hot tub curmudgeon folly of mine.